It is a doubt that we compare because ours are mediocre minds or our minds turn mediocre after comparing. It is easy to say comparing with others is the root cause of conflict or comparing with others is an attribute of a very common mind. But what's more true is that we all, now or some other time, gets caught in this very act of comparing. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be seeing this tremendous competition that it is seeing right now. Probably in this time, one can say he won't compare with anyone, but if at all, the people with whom he has an intimate relationship turns out to be the most successful persons, then obviously certain thoughts will be whispering to him that he has to run fast to beat them. If he couldn't, gradually inferiority complex will be increased and he will be living his rest of life in turmoil. It is not intended to say one would turn envious when his friends achieve success, but rather to expose how sometimes the phantoms in our brains throws us into darkness. If we check the reality, this habit of comparing with others is rooted in our minds not just by a stranger or anonymous person, but by our parents, teachers, relatives, and neighbors itself. People with whom we actually grow will influence our lives in such a way that it becomes very tough for us to think ahead of their opinions. Maybe that's why our neighbor who has greater skills in playing a game, let's say tennis, will influence us much more than the professional tennis players. When they introduce comparison, it's just a habit, but if we do not demolish it, then it becomes an addiction. Motivation for comparing can be of hatred, jealousy, fear, or desire to beat someone. But the worst part of it is, even if we want to defeat the person, we will never aware that it is actually we that are getting defeated by ourselves. Consider, for example, a person X who is having a serene, content life. Then comes the person Y who wants to be more happier and more content than X. So for that he starts to run to beat Y without knowing that in a content life there is no such thing as beating someone. Let's see what actually happens after comparing. Some people might say comparing with others might help to cope up with our lives, but this very formula only proves the fact that we do not truly adore the work we are doing. We intend to achieve our dreams as early as possible, and the reason for that would be obviously everyone is as serious as we are towards their dreams. So it is clear that if people are serious, we will get extremely concerned over our work. If people are not, we will also be lagging. If we truly love the work we do anyhow, irrespective of our neighbor's strategies. Secondly, let's say a person X who wants to master a certain language. For that he compare with someone Y to gain more skills than him. Probably he can acquire more knowledge than Y. But what's missed is that his aim of acquiring complete knowledge over the language went unfinished. After comparing, whole sensitivity of awareness will get vanished. The so called deep emotional attachment that once we had towards our dreams will get perished and we will get caught in the ambition of our competitor. Then his priorities will become our priorities and we will be very busy in making plans to mar his world. But what we were unaware is that our own world has demolished in the first place. Thirdly and lastly, it would be the crucial stage and it completely destroys ourselves. If once this very thought of comparing burn in our mind, we should cut it in the initial stage itself. Otherwise, that thought slowly increases its area in our mind and the very essence of life gets extinct. Negative emotions like jealousy, hatred, and fear will be created in our thoughts. Then one can say he will stop comparing and gets busy with his work. But it's too late. Even if one tries hard to get immersed in his work, his thoughts will shift to his competitor's plans and his competitor's thoughts will dictate him. Mind gets so mediocre that, for example, one would go to a shop to buy a watch, then thought comes to his mind as whether this watch will draw the attention of his competitor or not. Or to say otherwise, even for a tiny work that one does, he will be taking his competitor as his reference. Now, what if you don't compare with anyone, but people compare you with others? Never mind them, as definition of success varies from person to person, and they not even know on what basis they are judging the people. For example, skills of Einstein cannot be judged when he plays a cricket match. Similarly, Tendulkar's talent cannot be judged by considering his marks in physics subject. A survey conducted by our divine media once by comparing Gandhi and Tendulkar would be a fine example for this. It is not intended to say you should not compare with others because you cannot defeat them, but on the contrary, to make you realize the fact that comparing with others only helps you in destroying your own world. Merely informing comparing is a bad thing doesn't necessarily give freedom, but an insight into these things may help. If we have a world of our own, end in our mind, and if you truly adore the work we are doing, then we wouldn't be wasting a minute in our life by comparing with others. Thank you so much.